Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of May 16th through the 22nd. And I'm doing the blog a day early because the week kicks off in the wee hours of the morning with our second eclipse of the eclipse season during the full moon in Scorpio at 26 degrees Scorpio. So I wanted to get the blog out a day early for those of you who actually follow the blog, because I probably won't. If you're one who has to be reminded through social media, then you're probably not going to get this on Sunday when the blog initially came out, which is why I want to start with a public service announcement right at the beginning, because I know a lot of you guys don't hear me out till the end, and that is become a follower of the blog. It's on the YouTube channel. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower, and remember to turn your notifications on, or it's not going to tell you when the blog is being put out every week. Or you can always follow the blog on a podcast. There's all kinds of podcasts. It's just distributed out through Buzzsprout. Spotify has it. Reveal has it. Apple iPodcasts. And once again, you probably can become a follower on a lot of those podcasts, and there's no reason why you need to actually watch the video, really. What is important is hearing what I have to say. And for those of you who don't know astrology, also public service announcement. Don't get so lost in my astrological terms when I'm explaining why I'm saying what I'm doing astrologically, as more what you want to focus on is what that energy actually means, so you know what's going on this week with the energy this week, and you can work with that. For those of you who know some astrology, there's some of the reasons in there why, and I know that's what you guys want to hear. So serving both of you guys, hey, this is a free service, so I get to do what I want, right? And also, because it's a free service, the best way you can pay me back for this dedicated service to help you and me and everybody else out is to pass it on to someone else that you think might be interested in it. And of course, if you'd like to give a donation, I won't say no to that. You can find me at Matthew with 2 T's dash Lawton, Lauten on Venmo. And I'm also on Zelle or PayPal. And also, best way you can support me is when you need your chart read, which I know you will sooner or later, or if you need a predictive reading, your weather report for the next week ahead, for the next year ahead for you, just like I do for each week on this blog, get in touch with me. My email is matthui823@gmail.com. I've been doing charts professionally for 20 years plus. Do all kinds of different charts too, not just natal birth charts and predictive readings for each year, which is best around your birthday. Give yourself a birthday present and do it every year. And why act like a ship without a rudder? Knowing what energy is working in your life. But do relationship charts, children's charts, elections for when you need to know, best timing of events, relocation, astrocartography type services, fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose, all kinds of different stuff, all that stuff. Get in touch with me. Shameless self-promotion here. matthui823@gmail.com. Never have anyone disappointed with the reading. Always people getting a lot out of it. You need one too. That's the best way to support me and this blog and keep it going forward. Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. This is a really intense day this Sunday. I talked about it in the weekly last week, how we had the Venus-Chiron conjunction, Sun squaring Saturn and sextiling Neptune, and we're during Mercury retrograde, and we have a full moon in Scorpio. Moon in fall does not like to be in Scorpio. Starting off this day, squaring Uranus, and now by the end of today, late night tonight, early morning hours in the United States, we are going to have this full moon lunar eclipse, which, by the way, if you're on the East Coast, you can really get to see this. It's a total. It goes about an hour and a half. The West Coast people, I think, get to see some of it as the moon is rising. So there's your astronomical note of the blog right there too. But this is like very intense, this full moon. Not only is the moon in Scorpio, which is a sign that it is very uncomfortable in, the sign of its fall is what we call it traditionally. It's at 26 degrees Scorpio, and therefore it is in a T-square with Saturn in Aquarius. But good thing is it's also in a sweet trine with the Mars-Neptune conjunction, which will be exact later this week. So really, really intense. First of all, the moon in Scorpio wants intensity. That's what it actually wants. It wants some deep, passionate kind of energy. It wants that kind of attention. The thing is, when it's in Scorpio, it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing. And in fact, many times it can be a negative thing. Now remember, Scorpio is on the relationship side of the zodiac. So a lot of this intense energy will play out through relationships in particular that are like deep relationships, familial type relationships, people who know you really well. Those kinds of relationships is where this intense, passionate energy can come out. And remember, since it's in the relationship things, we have a tendency to project our own issues onto others. So we're going to be wrestling with our own shadow and have a tendency to get into power struggles, into manipulative type games, those kind of things with others, because we're shadow boxing our own stuff. And when it's moon in Scorpio, it can really be projected onto others. So what that does is it gets us into a self-destructive place inside emotionally. That's the moon, if it fall there again, and it can mess up our outer world. Because we're projecting it out. So what we really need to do is clean up our own psychic degree. Really look deep into our own psyche and ask ourselves, who am I really? What are these things that are influencing the behavior that I have? Scorpio is very connected with the past, and so and it's also connected with coercion, manipulation, so a lot of what we find out, especially under a full moon, where the moon's bright light is shining in on our own psyche and on other people around us. We'll see it in other people around us too, it's really showing us that maybe a lot of the things that are driving us are old models or programs from the past that were coerced onto us, whether it was knowingly or not, through others, through society, through relationships. So it can really be, an interesting, dangerous kind of place to be, because, there's a lot of crisis, a lot of drama that can bubble up because of the passion that's behind a lot of that. And, the reality is, when you think about it's a full moon, so it's opposite the sun. The sun is in Taurus, and what that shows is a lot of the roots of this is our own fears and our own insecurities about, the physical world and surviving, and also taking a lot of the intense emotions that are attached to those fears and insecurities and sweeping them under the rug by using materials, by using possessions, by using, once again, Taurus, old ideas, old traditional ways, and being really stuck there. So, right now, this full moon is really, going to test us on those issues and really bring up those insecurities, those fears, and, our love is tested. It's on the most deep type of relationships, these familial types of relationships, is really where we are getting tested. And that Scorpio is going to bring up the most intense kind of those energies, the ones where we have to deal with grief, we have to deal with loss, we have to deal with separation, perhaps death, things, fears, insecurities, things that are really, really deep down inside us. And when we project it and see it in others too, it can cause our relationships to go back and forth, like very binary in a way, between love and hate. Like, we can really feel our love in these really deep, intense ways for others, but at the same time can, feel hatred for others too. And it can actually even be the same person that you can go back and forth on that on. But the Scorpio moon is really seeking a deep, deep connection with others, and it's really looking at how the reality is that a lot of our old ways are blocking us right now from that deeper connection, that we can't make these deeper and have, without the fears coming up, and have that deeper connection and release without, going through a process of basically birth, death, rebirth. That's always what that Scorpio is about. So really, like, having to look at the reality of those situations and really, like, getting a grip on the fact that, we have to, like, find out who we are first by dealing with our own shadow and seeing, what programs we're running, and get ourselves out of those first. And it's interesting too, when we talk about the square to Saturn, that shows you how stuck we are, that there's restrictions right now being placed upon us by others in relationships, both personal, business, authoritarian, world, social. All those things are helping, are trying to, like, keep us stuck in those older models that this full moon is blasting on. And so it can be very angering, and it can, and when you add the square to Saturn, it can also be very depressing, because it can, like, take, it can really lower our self-confidence kind of, and our ability to think that we can actually handle the situation, and so once again, it gets us in these situations where we feel really stuck with others. There's a lot of, like, anger going on underneath, a lot of resentment, that kind of energy. Now, I think, the thing is with all this, what's interesting most to me about this, and remember to look, where 26 degrees Taurus Scorpio falls in your chart. That axis, those houses are going to be the ones that are most affected by it. And if anybody needs help with that, I will give a full moon reading, probably be about a 10-minute reading to you. It could even just be recorded and sent to you as an MP3 file, and I can do that for 10-minute reading for $20. So anyone who's interested in that this week, just get in touch with me. Once again, matthue823@gmail.com. But that's what you want to look at in your chart, is what, the axis it falls in, and it'll tell you which houses, and those houses will tell you the area of life where you can expect to go through a lot of this intense energy. It's really having to get deep beyond, like, some of the things that we're really indoctrinated with, and that we're full of fears with, and having to, like, they have us stuck in this place, and the world is in a place where it seems to be going through that together, and a lot of people are not really able to look at that. Instead, they're circling the wagons tighter and laying more fear on top of fear, more lies on top of lies. And, when we know we're doing that to ourselves, it's hard to break away. But, the interesting thing about this, though, is we got the trine to the Mars-Neptune conjunction. And I really think, Mars is the ruler of this full moon. So this can be really helpful. This is kind of like giving us a doorway. This shows that we can take actions from what we're being inspired by, that we can work on projects. We might even be able to connect with others, but it's a way where we can really do that. And by doing that, we become leaders by the way we act. We can show others that, how to do it, and we can create, add our own creative flair into this, our own being of who we are, the Mars, what really inspires us, the Neptune, and really show that. But it's really gives us a good, sympathetic, compassionate attitude, and we may get involved with projects that are kind of like that are charitable type work, things like that, or spiritual or artistic work. This is really a good time to do that. But it really has you act on what you feel, but it's in a nice flowing harmonious way with the trine. So it's giving us that ability to take what inspires us, to take the initiative ourselves, which draws in others, and then gets us working together. Now, once again, remember, this moon is conjunct the South Node, so there's a lot of past karma stuff in effect right now, and relationships can be stormy. Old groups, old patterns have to be broken out of, and that Saturn is squaring the nodes too. So it shows that these structures, which I've been talking about for a year and a half now, the Saturn square Uranus, old structures having to crumble and fall apart and be taken away. But you can see this full moon is really attached to the past and karma. You have the square to Saturn, the conjunction to the South Node, and it's in Scorpio. All three of those things have to do with the past. But the moon, Mars, Neptune can really have us give us a more positive attitude adjustment and help us to really move on. But you have to remember on this one, though, it is a fixed T-square. So the things we're seeing right now, and the changes have to start within and really finding ourselves. It's a long road. It's fixed. It's going to take a time to go through all these issues and work through all this stuff. But it gives us the ability, that Mars, Neptune, to act on those emotions. And so there we are. It's a very, very intense full moon, and it really is asking us, what is really driving you emotionally? Where do your fears come from? Where do your models come from? And and if you can't change those in yourself, and then you're constantly projecting them out into your relationships with others and groups and society in general, and you're not going to be able to change any of those things either. You're going to continue to fail because you're running an old model or pattern, and you're not really clear what yours individually is. And that's what a birth chart reading helps with too, is to get you to know what models are running inside you, what subconscious energy, what subpersonalities are dictating what you do if you're not conscious of them, and therefore maybe not being clear of who you really are. So that's what we're all working on. So this leads right into Tuesday's conjunction, of the exact conjunction of Mars and Neptune in Pisces. Now, on a positive level, I say to myself right away, oh, good. This will give us the motivation to act on our ideals and do what we want to do, and work towards them. And that is the positive way, especially within Pisces too. But the reality of the situation is Mars represents our energy every day. our motivation, our action, our will, those kinds of things. And Neptune is a great diffuser of energy, so it can be really easy to get caught into oh, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I feel self-pity. I feel bad for myself. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to act. I'm gonna, just dissipate and fall apart. I'm gonna give in. I'm gonna give up. So this can be really, this is the danger of Mars Neptune, and it can also really dissipate the physical energy, the life force. So we have to be careful that we fall into that headspace that we're gonna bring our body along with that and give it some kind of physical ailment. But really, the best way is to, really use our faith to motivate us and our values and our ideals and our inspiration to take action and move forward with what we want to do. We can see something new under the conjunction. And a lot of it, a lot of times it has to do with spiritual and artistic output when it comes to Mars Neptune. The energy flows slowly like Mars Neptune, like water just kind of trying to find the easiest way to go rather than like this big push forward. So that's what you're looking at. Now, Wednesday's the exact Jupiter Sirius square. I'm not going to talk about that again. I mentioned it in the monthly. I'll do that then. There's too much other stuff I want to get to. Thursday is an excellent day to continue, pushing whatever transformation you see you want to do with that full moon, because the sun is trining Pluto and Mercury retrograde is sextiling Jupiter that day. So the sun trine Pluto is going to give us an opportunity to be in power in our life, to really make a leap forward in our own growth, in our own personal growth. And that can be across all kinds of levels. That can be, physical, it can be monetary, emotional, it can be all kinds of different levels, but it really shows us that the ability to change, the ability to transform is much easier. The energy is flowing. And there's probably going to be some intense experiences tied up in that, but it's definitely one of those situations where you can use your power for the good, for your good, for the good of people around you. And in fact, the more you use it for the good of others around you in society, the more long-lasting and transformational it will be for you too. So use that energy well. And at the same time, the Mercury retrograde sextiling Jupiter, which is the second hit of this, is showing that we can go back over our plans now of what we want to do in the future and really kind of organize them and get them down during this Mercury retrograde period, and, see an ability to see the bigger patterns, and with the Pluto energy too, to see underneath, once again, what's driving those patterns. Can we separate ourselves out from those patterns, create our own patterns, create, that infuse our own value systems, infuse our own energy, and feed our own personal growth, feed our own evolution, feed our own expansion on all kinds of levels. I mean, Mercury Jupiter really wants more knowledge. It wants more wisdom. It wants a broader understanding. So it really wants to take more in. And the Sun Pluto is like, yeah, that can help me transform into something greater than what I am now. So really, those energies work really well together. This is a week where we can really start at the base inside ourselves, not run from what we see, and then just take each step day by day to bring it out, start to transform what we want to do just really slowly in ourselves and take those steps. Now, Friday, the sun goes into Gemini. So we're into the last third of spring in the northern hemisphere and the last third of fall in the southern hemisphere. And this is a time period where people really get into collecting information and sharing information. Now, with Mercury retrograde, that may slow it down for a little while for sure, but it's it really brings an acute curious, sharp, witty mind. And it's also like into humor, can be the trickster, can even be the deceiver, but very playful and wanting to collect information. A lot of local travel too, a lot of local connection, with people that you are around you every day, like your neighbors or the people that you see every day in your daily routine. These are people that, you're going to have a lot of interaction with, a lot of sharing of information with, a lot of communications with during this period. But like I said, the Mercury retrograde will probably slow a lot of that down, but still the information collection's going on, but it's mainly a lot of the talk and stuff is in our minds, in our own minds from the Mercury's retrograde. And speaking of which, Mercury does two other things on the weekend. It does its inferior conjunction to the Sun on Saturday, the 21st, next week. So that's its second conjunction to the Sun in the Mercury retrograde cycle. And that is when we're the most inner, when we're in the Mercury retrograde period. That's when, to me, the communications between people are at its lowest ebb, because the inner conversation is really what's going on mainly right now, and people are really chewing through what they've been seeing, and they're not quite really ready to bring it out to others yet. They might not quite even understand it all themselves, but it is a good time once again to use the spark of ideas and just start to develop new ideas within our minds only, really. It's not really a great time to get them out yet, like the superior conjunction is, and announce them, but it's really a good time to work on them within ourselves. And then also, Sunday, Mercury retro will go back into Taurus. So when the superior conjunction happens, it is right at 1 degree of Gemini, and then it's going to go back into Taurus the very next day. And like I said, when I talked about Mercury retrograde in the monthly and even in last week's weekly, I think when it goes into Taurus, we're going to force the brakes on a lot of stuff. We talked about the fixed T-square with the full moon and how that would make things have to, develop slowly. Well, this is part of that, I think, too. But those energies tied together. I think, the Gemini quickness and stuff and a lot of the things that had gone on in the last 3 months before Mercury went retrograde had maybe our minds moving at hyperspeed and stuff. And now this Mercury retrograde period, we might finally get to a point next weekend where we're I am just slowing this down. I am not going to make any quick decisions. I am going to think things through thoroughly so we can get into a more stubborn, fixed state of mind when that happens. And the rest of Mercury retrograde, which is until June 4th, will be in Taurus. And I think it goes back to about 27 degrees. And then it will start to move forward again once Mercury goes direct on the 4th. And the last thing I want to mention this week, and it just continues that theme of once what we see today on that full moon lunar eclipse can bring a lot of change. As next Sunday, Mars is sextiling Pluto. And just like that Sun Pluto trine, it gives us a great opportunity to bring change into our life, to bring growth into our life, to adjust what we're doing and make it even better, make our plan better, make what we want to do more aligned with what we really want to bring out there, and the effects will last longer. They'll go stronger. So it's about clarifying our objectives and really knowing what we want to do. So then we get this conviction behind what we want to do. It gives us a purpose in life, and until we have a purpose, we're kind of aimless, and we're not really doing things well. We have to, we really need to know what that is in order to move forward. And that, once again, has a lot to do with disassociating ourselves from what we really are not. Maybe what we were indoctrinated into being, and trying to find out who we really are. So this is a really, really interesting week. It's deep, it's intense. Relationships can really go through some tough stuff this week. I can't promise that some won't separate and get lost. What we're seeing inside ourselves, we're going to see reflected in others. And, we may feel like, that's not possible to work with, or we can, that Scorpio can take it to like that really deep level of like that open, intense, passionate honesty and wanting to change with others, so there's, but the opportunities, start with seeing those parts of ourselves. And then all week long, we're going to get these aspects that say, yes, transformation can happen and occur right now. And it can happen and occur much easier right now. But you are the one who has to be motivated to do it. Self-motivation, is that Sun and Mars is involved with the Pluto, and that's like, okay, you have to do this, you have to move it forward. So, all right, a really dynamic, intense week ahead. Got this done a little early. Once again, it's a free service. Pass it on to someone else. Also, you can become a follower on Instagram. Look up Astrological Winds channel, and pass it around too. Hash mark me or something. And then Facebook, I do have a private account. You can friend me. Just remember, that's mainly all I use it for is astrology. So don't friend me if you're not interested in that. And I do post the link there too. And it's on all those podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel, YouTube, become a follower. Don't forget to turn your notifications on. I social media blitz a lot of you guys when I can. If you don't want me to, tell me that you don't want me to. I may not remember all the time, and and I apologize for that. But yeah, otherwise, get me for anything else. I've got classes for beginner astrologers. There's 5 classes available right now on Dropbox at $25 a piece, or if you're a student with an ID, $20 a piece. Like I said, I will do a full moon eclipse reading for $20 for 10 minutes this week. If you want to do a predictive and natal reading together, I am giving 1/6 off my cost on that right now. And once again, if you want to talk to me about costs and prices, things like that, it's matthuey823@gmail.com. All right, I will see you all next week, and take a look and start to make those changes you want to make.